1998 NBA Finals. Tonight, it's Game 5. The Utah Jazz versus the Chicago Bulls.
Earlier tonight at the United Center, the Chicago Bulls, led by Michael Jordan, coming into this building to play basketball for the final time this season. But the larger question is it the last time for the Chicago Bulls as we have known them? Five-time world champions in pursuit tonight of number 6. In the minds of Chicago fans, it would only be poetic justice for it to end here tonight on their home floor. And we welcome you inside the United Center for Game 5. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Costas. The stage is set for a celebration. So what the Utah Jazz faces is simply this. They've got to make this a competition, not a coronation. There's only one way for them to look at this. They're going to get on a plane for Salt Lake City after tonight's game, and they might as well make the Chicago Bulls go with them, which would not only be a major inconvenience for the Bulls, it would put the championship in some jeopardy as well. What Utah is playing for tonight is not just to save face and pride. They're playing for a chance to rekindle their hopes for a championship, because if they win tonight, they would have at least a reasonable shot at winning back-to-back at the Delta Center, which is why Michael Jordan and the Bulls, even up 3-1, are not approaching this with complacency at all. There is a sense of urgency to finish it tonight, not Zeke. When Michael Jordan smells the finish line, he's one of the great closers ever in sports.
And Bob, Michael Jordan is one of the greatest players to ever play. And why is he so good? He's given the Utah Jazz so many problems because he can beat you with his outside J. And then he can take the smaller Jazz guards inside with his low post moves. And then when you're up on him, he can go around you with the dribble. He moves so well without the basketball in a triangle triple post that you can't find him. Now he's averaging 32 points in this series, and he's shooting 80% from the foul line. More importantly, he's getting to the foul line 11 times a night. Now, Michael Jordan will be more determined than ever to make sure that the Bulls end it here tonight. Bob?
Thanks, Zeke. Well, Doug, there's no minimizing Utah's plight. No team has ever come back from a 3-1 deficit in the finals to win the championship. On the other hand, with the exception of Game 3, they've been in every game. And, in fact, in their losses in Games 2 and 4, you change a play here, an official's call there, and they could be even up in the series.
Bob, you're right. It has come down to critical plays. And in Game 1, it was John Stockton and the Utah Jazz. In overtime, Stockton with a runner gives his team a 4-point lead in the victory. Utah leading by 1 in Game 2. Kerr with a big offensive rebound. He finds Michael Jordan for the 3-point play. They steal the home court. And then Scottie Pippen, magnificent defensively in Game 3 when the Bulls beat them by 42 points and totally turned this series around. And then in Game 4, once again, critical plays. Dennis Rodman, 2 big offensive rebounds, 4 of 4 from the free throw line. Michael Jordan, 2 big post plays to finish the game off. Now, Bob, your stars win championships for you. And in the fourth quarter and overtime in this series, Stockton, Malone, when they've gotten it done in Game 1, they've won. In Game 2 and in Game 4, when they have struggled, they have not. 2 future Hall of Famers, 2 of the top 50 players of all time. If there's a Game 6, it must be on the shoulders of John Stockton and Karl Malone.
To get them there, to get them through Game 5 and get them to Game 6. We'll find out soon enough. We'll be joined by Hannah Storm and the Showtime crew when we come back to the United Center after these messages.
Welcome back to Chicago. I'm Hannah Storm. The Chicago Bulls are 1 win away from their 6th title in 8 years. But just 9 days ago, when this series began, the Bulls were actually considered underdogs. Here's Ahmad Rashad with Michael Jordan.
The key for 3. It's long. And Michael is there, as he so often is. The Bulls will survive the Pacers.
When this series started, the 2 things they said about the Bulls were they were old and they were tired, which obviously had nothing to do with what was going to happen in the future.
Well, I mean, That's true. You know, we are old, and sure, we're tired. It's been a long season, but mentally, we have a vision. We have a finish that we have to attain. You know, and sometimes you have to do it when you're old and you're tired. You know, and I think it's the test of your will to succeed when you have to deal with some of these negatives. And I'm pretty sure by the end of this playoffs, you'll see the old and the tired people were very, very young and strong mentally.
Your confidence as a team really didn't wane going into Utah. Well, a lot of people thought they had a tough time with Indiana, they'll never get by Utah.
Their confidence, or their overconfidence, was our biggest, positive, our biggest strength going into the series. They were expected to dominate us because of many games and the minutes that I've played and Scotty's played and whatever. And I felt it was still in our favor. We had a rhythm, we were gaining, improving as we moved deeper into the playoffs. Sure, we went to a 7-game series with Indiana, but I think that was a plus instead of a minus.
Now, going in, you say the pressure's on Utah. Here it is about a week later. You guys are up 3-1. The pressure's squarely on the Bulls to win this thing. As Utah, they have nothing to lose at this point.
Well, I disagree with you. I think, no one anticipated us being in this scenario, 3-1, an opportunity to close it out in Chicago. They're looking at trying to get it back to Utah, so the pressure's still on them. They haven't lived up to the expectations of Salt Lake City or Utah and most of the people who predicted them to beat us. So they have to contend with those thoughts. I don't think that in their mind, they haven't been able to solve our defense, which is a big key. Our defense has always been able to hold them, whenever it's a necessary need for that. In some of their minds, I'm pretty sure that, they think that they should be swept by now, 4-0.
Plenty more with Ahmad and Michael at halftime. While Jordan has made all the big plays in these finals, Karl Malone has struggled, scoring 7 points below his average with 17 turnovers.
Closing in on Karl Malone.
I think my concern is people don't start making plans for summer already. Every guy have to look at himself. Not a pep talk from coach or myself or John or anybody else. Yourself. If nothing else, how are you going to be remembered by the other teams in the league?
Dennis Rodman's been given a lot of the credit for hurting you from a defensive standpoint. Do you buy that? Does he deserve it?
Well, I don't buy that, but everybody want to know why maybe I'm not getting shots in the fourth quarter. We have certain plays we run. We haven't ran those plays, but they don't talk about that. Give credit where credit is due. He have an assignment to play defense and rebound and always be where I'm at, and he's doing a good job of doing that. I give him credit, but I'm not going to give him all the credit, no.
John Stockton told me in an interview earlier this week that sometimes you take all the pressure on yourself and the burden on yourself to carry this team. And he said that works for you. Is that the way you're approaching this game?
Whenever a game situation like this, I do, and I see no reason for it to be different now. I know, and it's known throughout America, that the you want to be remembered as an athlete. You look at everything I've done, the one thing I haven't done is win a title. So it's not going to be the end of the world for me, but from a sports standpoint, I would always say that he got them there, but they didn't win the whole thing.
Malone has certainly taken the brunt of the criticism for not getting the job done down the stretch for the Utah Jazz. And right now, let's rejoin Doug and Isaiah down on the floor and see where they weigh in on this issue. Isaiah, how much of the blame does Malone deserve?
And I think he only deserves 50% of the blame, and I think Stockton deserves the rest. It's always been Stockton and Malone, the 1-2 punch, and Stockton has failed to show his leadership skills and to get Malone involved in the latter parts of a game. Malone is a soldier. He's not a leader. They've taken Stockton totally out of this series, and in the last 3 games, he's only averaged 6 points. So Stockton must find a way to get himself involved and get his teammates involved and share some of that responsibility and take the burden off of Malone a little bit.
Well, Isaiah, if Karl Malone is the guy who's going to take the brunt of the criticism, he's got to do one of 2 things. He's got to talk to Jerry Sloan or Stockton. He's got to go, look, I'm not happy with the plays we're running in the 4th quarter. This is what I want us to do. This is where I want the ball. Then if we go down, if we lose, I can accept that. But he has got to be, there's got to be a trust factor here. You know, 13 years together. Now's the time to communicate. Don't just worry about it going into the summer. Do something about it right now when you can do it.
But Doug, that's totally out of his character. He's a soldier. He's not a leader. And throughout the Utah Jazz, since Stockton and Malone got together, Stockton has been the leader and Sloan has been the leader. And right now, Malone is being a good soldier and taking a bullet.
Thanks a lot, guys. And clearly it is up to not only Karl Malone, but also John Stockton, both future Hall of Famers, to save Utah's season with a win tonight. We're closing in on the tip-off of Game 5. The NBA Finals continue on NBC right after these messages.
For the last time at the United Center this season with the starting lineups, here's Ray Clay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Chicago Bulls welcome the world's greatest fans to the United Center. Tonight, Game 5 of the NBA Finals is between the Utah Jazz and your Chicago Bulls. Now, let's meet tonight's starting lineups. First for the visiting Utah Jazz, at 1 forward, from Long Beach State, 6'7", Brian Russell. At the other forward, 6'9", out of Stanford, Adam Keefe. At center, 6'9", from Louisiana Tech, Karl Malone. At 1 guard, 6'1", out of Gonzaga, John Stockton. And the other guard from Iowa State, 6'4", Jeff Hornacek. The Utah Jazz are coached by Jerry Sloan. Mexico, 7'2", Luke Longley. Jackson.
And before tonight's opening tip, we, as always, go to Ahmad Rashad.
All right, thanks, Bob. And as always, during this series, the Bulls locker room very loose and extremely confident. I think the Bulls, to a man, feel like this is the end of that series. Michael Jordan tells me that that's really not the way you want to look at a series like this. They have to look at it like they have to win one of the next 3 games. Now, he also said that this is a game that's about leadership. He and Scotty have been in this situation before, and it's up to them to show the rest of his team how to bring it on home. Let's go down to Jim Gray.
All right, thank you very much, Ahmad. Well, I was in the Jazz locker room before the game, and the approach that the Jazz are taking is that they're not down 3 games to 1, but that they're only behind by 1 game. Jerry Sloan telling his troops that the mission is still the same as when they came to Chicago. They need to win 1 game here in this building. Sloan telling them that if they can win this game, he feels as though they can go back to Utah and all of the momentum will switch. Finally, I spoke to Karl Malone, and Karl Malone says, I love Michael Jordan. I admire the way he plays. In fact, I like him so much, I hope he doesn't retire.